Welcome to series of database management system video lectures. Today we will be discussing about unit 5 topic 1.2, that is continuation of structured query language commands. So in the previous sessions we have covered DDL commands, DQL commands, DCL commands. We will be exploring about TCL commands, that is transaction control language commands. So the first one is commit, save point, rollback, set transaction, and then set constraint. Let us understand better about these commands with an example. So let us open SQL. I have already created a table with the name accounts. Within, we have two fields of information, that is user ID and then balance. We have inserted 3 records with a minimum balance here. Now, I wanted to create a transaction. So I need to write start transaction. Now we have begun this transaction. Whatever maybe the operations are all going to be taken as the part of the transactions here. Now, I wanted to modify the content of the balance, okay, whose record starts with user ID 1. So I can simply write an update command because I wanted to modify update the value of balance for the table accounts. So update accounts set balance equals, I wanted to deduct 500 rupees from the existing values. So we can write balance minus 500. Now to which particular record we need to subtract this? Where user ID equals 3. Okay, now I wanted to deduct the value from that particular record. Fine. Now we have updated that changes. Similarly, before we apply any kind of operation, I wanted to have a checkpoint here, a save point here. So save points, we can give a save point name to identify, because we can create n number of save points here, right? So that we can retrieve back, we can roll back to that particular point. So save point, let me have update 1. Update 1 is my first save point. Right, now we have created a save point. Now I wanted to update another record values. Now let us add 5,000. Let me add 5,000 to the record where the user ID equals 1. Okay, so now it has affected. Now again, let me create another save point. Now this is update 2, because as I am dealing with update command, I gave the name, or we can give any kind of name so that you will be able to identify that. Right, now the second save point is also being done. Now for every operation which we are performing, if we issue a commit, now let me issue a commit command. So now this commit command freezes the data. So it will not allow you to take any changes or insert any more records into it. Now we have issued a commit command here. Now let us perform. So once we have performed commit operation, we cannot modify any kind of changes. Now let us see. If I wanted to update the second record, now I wanted to add, already we have 200 there. Let me add 5,000 to it. Yes, now the updations were accepted. Let us display the content of it. Now look at here. Already we have 3 records, like the way how we have initially started, the same 3 records. After that, we have updated record number 3, ID number 3. Earlier there was 3,300 amount in it. Now we have updated that. We have deducted 500. So that's how you got 2,800 here. And the second record, second updation is that for record ID 1, we were adding 5,000 rupees. So earlier it was minus 3,000. So plus 5,000 will give you 2,000 here. Fine. The third record which we were updating is ID equals 2. So here also we were adding 5,000 to 200. So that's how we got 200. Now after issuing commit command, I have updated record number 2, which was already done. No, which wasn't. Yeah. After doing that, the next record has been modified. After issuing commit command, we have, let us change for record number 2. Again, let me add the same and let us print. So now it has added. Okay. Now let us insert into the table values. User ID as 4 and the balance is of 4,000, 4,090. Right. The records have been inserted. Right. Commit, we cannot perform the manipulations to the data. You can add the data, right? But then the changes to the data values may not be accepted. Now, if you perform commit, you cannot issue rollback. Rollback is a command which helps you to undo the last operation, because due to any kind of the error message, due to any kind of mistakes that we have encountered while changing the values, now I don't want it to reflect the same thing, then you can apply this rollback command. Okay, so rollback can be done either without specifying any save point, directly we can do it. Now, performing rollback without giving any save point will not be able to perform any operation in a better manner. That's the reason we have already created a save point, so that you can reach to that particular point. Whatever may be the operations that have been performed, you can just undo that transaction there, right? So that's the reason you can mention rollback, and we gave update 1 as the save point there. So now rollback to save point. Now, as soon as you issue a commit command, you cannot apply this rollback command, because once the commit has freezed all the set of data items, you will not find any kind of save points there. Okay, so that's how we will get the message like this. Now, let us get the same data of accounts into another table. Let us move all the data. Table. Let me create new accounts table by taking all the records from accounts table. Okay, new accounts is already available. So let me change new accounts 1. Right. So now we have created a table by taking all the content of the existing table. Now let me retrieve all the contents of table. That is new. So 1 is my new table. So this is what the data which I have. Now again, let us start the transaction. We have started the transaction. Now here again, let us perform updates, accounts, new accounts 1. Set balance. Let me modify the value. Set balance equals balance minus 100, where I wanted to perform this to the user column with value 3. Okay. So now here I am attempting to perform changes to the record number 3. Fine, it has performed. Now here let me create a save point with name update 1. Update 1 we have already created. Let us see. Fine. Because all the save points have been deleted as soon as we issue a commit command. That's the reason we are allowed to create another save point with the same name update 1. Right. Now let us apply the changes to the next record, that is 4. Now here I wanted to add 100 to the record 4. Okay. Right. Now these two have happened. Now after this, again, I wanted to create another save point with an update of 2. Right. Now even this has happened. Now let me change where now this is the thing which we are testing here. User ID 5, we don't have it. Now let us see whether the updation is possible or not. So once it has performed the operation, it did not find any matched records. That's the reason 0. So there were no changes that were applicable to it. Now let us display new accounts. Okay, so now these are the changes that have been reflected. ID 5 we don't have. ID 4 balance plus 100. ID 4 earlier it was 4090, so now 4190 because we have added 100. Now look at record number 3, it was 2800 earlier. Now we are deducting, so that's how it has become 2700. Okay, so now when we wanted to undo the last operation, I don't want it to change the anyway this transaction, the recent transaction is with respect to ID 5, but then it was not performed any changes. That's the reason we consider the last transaction to be, last operation to be ID 4. Okay, so we were trying to add the value. Let me roll back, undo that particular operation. So that's the reason roll back to save point. So now to perform this operation, what is the state I need to reach so that it should not be applicable? After update 1, it has happened. So I need to come to that particular point. Okay, to save point, that is update 1. Right, now it has performed. Now let me retrieve the records and let us look at the changes here. Yeah, so the last transaction was we were adding 100 to the record ID 4. Now we have done rollback to that particular stage. Now the original values we got there. So we did not add that values here. So this is how a rollback will do the undo operations which was lastly done. Commit is a command which freezes the data. It will not allow any kind of manipulations to the data. Of course, it will encourage to add new set of data items. And then save point can be used to get to that save zone for each and every operation which has been performed so that you can retrieve back to that state, right? So this is how we deal with the TCL commands, that is commit, rollback, save point, right? And then next we have, next we have set a transaction and then set a constraint. When it comes to set a transaction, moving on to the next one, that is set a transaction. Now here, in the previous example, we have discussed how a transaction can be started and how do we perform various operations upon the data records, right? We have updated few records, we have deducted the balance, and we have added. Now, before we perform this transaction, how this transaction should be performed in which particular mode? So as we have already discussed from unit 3 topic, that is asset properties, that is atomicity, consistency in isolation, and then durability. So I wanted to perform this transaction in one particular mode. So to do that, we use a set transaction isolation level. Now here we can specify whether it is read committed, read uncommitted, right? Write committed, write uncommitted. So that sort of options that we can mention. In that mode, I want this transaction to be performed, right? That is the only change with respect to the previous example. So with this, DDL is completed, TCL is completed, and in TCL, we have set a constraint that we will be discussing when we go with integrity constraints. And then TQL is already done, TCL is done. Okay, now we'll move on to the next one, that is DML. We have already completed insert, update, delete, and call is a command that we are going to use when we write programs in SQL by using cursors, triggers, or procedures. Okay, so we will be discussing that at that context. And we have the last one, that is lock mechanism. And even this theoretical content of lock mechanism, we have already covered as part of unit 3. What is a lock mechanism? Concurrency control protocol. This is one of the concurrency control protocol. So how do we apply a lock? What are the various types of locks, right? So with respect to that, we will be performing this operation now. Now let us practically apply the locking mechanism. So let me use my database AR. So let me take accounts table, right? So we have 4 records in this. Now let us create a lock upon this particular table. So the syntax is lock tables. Table name is accounts. Now I wanted to apply lock in 2 different modes. One is read lock and then write lock. Now this type of locking mechanism applying on a table is called as a table lock. Okay, so now I wanted to apply in a read mode. Fine, you have acquired a read lock upon the table accounts. Now, if I write a query to display the content of this particular table, it will select start from. It will access the data because we are performing a read operation to retrieve the data, right? Now, let us write the command to change update table, update accounts. I wanted to change the value, set balance equals balance plus 50. I wanted to apply these changes to the record where user underscore ID equals 4. Okay, now I wanted to add that 50 to the record 4. Now let us see what will happen. Now here is how the message that we got. Table accounts was locked with a read lock mechanism, and you will not be allowed to perform any write operations. You cannot do any manipulations to the data which is being logged using a read mode. Now, when I wanted to acquire a write lock, I need to release that read lock and only then you can acquire that. So that's the reason you need to write unlock tables, write this command. Right? Now, whatever the locks that have been already acquired by that particular table, all are going to be released. So now I wanted to apply a read lock now, right? Write lock now. I wanted to create a lock that is an exclusive lock wherein I wanted to perform the manipulation to the data. Now, let us retrieve the content of the table. Okay, now let me change, let me update the value here. I wanted to change the value to record 4, right? Now the changes have been performed because record with user ID 4 was found and it was added with 50. So that's how it was modified. Let us get the data. Right. So now the data has been modified, which means that manipulations have been allowed because you have obtained a write lock so that you can perform the operations. Okay. So now this is for table lock. Now when it comes to a row lock or a record lock, now select start from table name, that is accounts, where user underscore ID equals 2. Now, when we write a query to get only that particular record, that means you are applying a log upon that is not being done by us, but then internally, while performing this operation, it applies a log on the second record, right? So this is how we get the data. Now, whenever you are writing a where clause, which means that you are particular about that record, so that's the reason it will apply by default. MySQL will apply a record log upon that particular data, right? So that's how it will retrieve the record, so that it ensures that there will not be any other transactions which are going to perform changes to that record. Okay.